back here and explain a little bit more thoroughly the Raptors' strategy with expiring contracts and what everything is happening in the new CBA, because it's kind of changed things a little bit. So I wanted to go through some of the more bigger numbers today. And this is kind of like a part 2 to my first expiring contract video. It's all tailored to the Raptors' strategy in the new CBA and how they're going to access their money better than they did in previous years. So first off, we have to start off with the salary cap and what it means. So if the salary cap in 2024-2025 is $140 million, you can see it there, right? So, and the minimum to spend is $128 million, I believe. So there's a minuscule amount. There's like $14 million between the salary cap and the minimum spending floor. So you already have to have a certain amount. So like dropping all the contracts and having as much free space under the salary cap isn't necessarily the move, because you only have $14 million and the MLE is pretty much that already. So you want to go over the salary cap number, right? So that you can use the MLE and you're no worse for wear. But see, this is what happens. The luxury tax level is at $170 million, right? And the first apron is $178 million. So there's an additional $38 million above the salary cap that can be accessed. But you need trade exceptions, or you have to trade for lower tier players. Lower tier contracts can be traded for higher ones up to a certain point. There's a lot of different things within the trade mechanics, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm talking about how do we access this $38 million that we have. It's from the salary cap to the first apron. That's the reason why we picked up Bruce Brown's contract. He makes 23, adds the player exception, the mid-level exception that we get, which is a new rule. If you don't use it, it becomes a trade exception. So now we can take on $13 million plus that $23 million that Bruce makes. And that kind of makes up 36, right? So that's how we access that money there, that $38 million, right? So that's the reason why we picked up Bruce's contract, to have access to that money, because we already have our MLE. So we just have to stay like $13 million, $10 million. We're at like $10 million below the first apron right now. So we're under the luxury tax line by a couple million. We can take on money. We have expiring contracts. But in the summer, this is what we're looking at. If we don't trade for any new expiring contracts that we can flip, because teams, yeah, we could take on an $8 million player, but they're looking to get rid of bigger contracts, and you need certain amounts of like salary to trade for bigger contracts for them to be able to dump their players and get whatever plus picks or whatever assets they attach to the dump. So we get it. So we're just playing with the accounting numbers, trying to access that $38 million under the first apron and over the salary cap, because I think that's the best way to utilize it, right? We're not going to necessarily play these guys, and I see like there's a lot of ghost injuries and whatnot, and like a lot of sitting and not playing the older guys, because we do want to play the younger guys, but those guys are there mainly as placeholders in order for us to have the most opportunities. Like I went through the different amounts. Now that you can understand that we can take back 13 plus whatever players we send out, we can take back a lot more money. And then we still have other expiring, so we're going to get under the luxury tax line again. And we'll have more money to play with next year. So whether we pick up expiring this year or we look to sign or re-sign or do whatever we do, right? There's a lot of options in this salary cap era, and I think people are focused on what players we're actually getting, but Masai has to like evaluate their kind of player value and what amount they can be paid at a reasonable rate for them to still be attractive for other teams to maybe just want to trade for outright. So it's a balancing act between the salary number and what guys you hold and how much they play. It's a really interesting balancing act, but I think Masai's got an understanding of the new rules of the CBA. Hopefully this is clear enough. It's mainly our strategy is to use expirings to access that $38 million, so we have more options and we can get more. And we hold more talent under the salary cap. Like we hold Quickly, we hold RJ, we hold assets. So we have two kind of numbers we're working with: our expiring contracts that are tradable or willing to move, and then our core guys and our prospects that we're working on, right? So there's two different kind of like rosters, and Darko's focused on playing our main core guys and not necessarily the older vet guys or whatever, but it's important to showcase them now. So, yeah, we'll see what happens at trade deadline. It's coming up soon. We'll see.